And we are live.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are or whenever you're going to watch this back. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2024. My name is Francis West. I'm the CEO of Security Everywhere, and we run a cybersecurity company. And every month, we invite specialists in the sector or different topics around cybersecurity. And today's one is specifically of huge interest to me. Why? Because I've got children. Luckily, two of them are older now, but I've got one that's still at school, and I'm quite a strict parent. I don't know about you, but yesterday alone, I was presenting with, thanks to Very, who's here today from Bedfordshire Police, on an all-day team, and we presented in front of 80 policemen, and there were lots covered around today's topic. And I so wish the gentleman that was there was able to join us, but hopefully next time he'll be able to join us. But I want to start, but actually before I start playing my first video, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Mac, who organizes these sessions. And if you need help with these kind of sessions for your own business, please use Mac. And Simon, who heads up the London Cyber Resilience Centre, does amazing work in protecting a lot of businesses in London and other counties. Very, which I've already mentioned. Louise Richardson, she runs an amazing charity called AppSafe up in Scotland, and what this lady doesn't know about child safety online, you don't want to know. And so thank you for driving 5 hours back, Louise, to come and join us today. And Theo has just joined us here at Security Everywhere, heads up our consultancy team. And of course, Ben, you know, is my right-hand man that does a lot of work on protecting customers worldwide now, and especially also, you know, some of my clients' children. And of course, last but not least, Martin Rees, who is a 5 times Guinness World Record holder for magic tricks. And he always does a 10-minute slot for us in the middle. So watch out for his session. So thank you very much for everybody for making your time available to help other people. So I'd like to start by playing a little video, because this video was shared to me last time I met Very, and I tell you what, this just sums it up for me in one as to what we're going to talk about today. So I've never done one of these before, so let me see how I do it. Will it include the sound as well?
It should do. Just
Mac?
hit the present. You should hit the present button.
So
and,
do I need to do video, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, just do a thumbs up if you can hear sound. So you can see the screen, correct? So now I'm going to play the sound button. Working?
No sound.
No sound? Okay, so what am I doing wrong? Let me just check something. So where do I go again? So present, and I do share screen.
Yeah.
There's audio is turned on. Audio is turned on. So I did a video. Yeah, so I don't know why it's not working. That's a great shame, because what I want to do is to share this video. What I'll have to do is just create, what I'll do, I'll share the link then with everybody in the chat right now. There you go, I've just shared the link. Mac, have a look at that link. I don't know if you can try and play it on your side and see if it works.
I'll have a look now.
Is that possible?
Just give us a second.
Yeah, it says your browser blocked the screen icon. So maybe the problem's on my side.
Let's have a look. Oh, you've sent the. There you go.
Yeah. There's actually 2 videos I want to play, but this is the first one. I'll share the other one as well for you for later.
Okay, let's have a look. On the fly, here we go.
There we go. It's the best way. Let's see if yours is working. If not, then I feel better than if you can't make it work, then at least. We're all in suspense now.
Here we go. Share.
So we can see your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can. I mean, the screen is quite small, so I did mine full screen when I shared mine.
Okay, here we go.
And let's see if you can play the sound. Yeah, brilliant. Yours is working. Just buffering a bit. This is why this stuff is live.
Anytime today.
Yeah. Do you need to upgrade your internet? Have you put money in the meter yet?
I need to check.
I reckon you need to go get a top-up card.
Hold on, give us a second here.
There you go. Get in there.
This is very odd because I have good speed on my side.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a bit. Maybe it's a video that's a bit because we found the video on YouTube. The one I want to share. I mean, otherwise, worst case, we need to continue. We'll just share the link with the audience. But I really, really, really wanted to show it to everybody because it.
Yeah.
No, okay, leave it. Let's leave it. Let's move on. Because I think it's just buffering, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, not to worry. Okay, I'll tell you what, Barry, I'm going to put you on the spot if you don't mind. Tell us about the video. What happened in the video?
Yeah, so good afternoon. Yes, it's afternoon. Well, at least in the UK, depending where you are. Good morning, good evening. So the video is a creation by the Dutch Telecom of a girl called Ella, and her parents share stuff about her online on the internet and as a memory. And then they take a video from Ella and some photos, and then they can create a grown-up version of Ella. And then they play it at the cinema on a film part, and then so they could be aware. And then basically it's Ella saying about the dangers of having her image shared online, so it can turn into memes. For example, I'm sure a lot of you might have come across a lot of memes who are pictures of kids, or sometimes there's like a dog one, and there's just always like a really like weird looking face kind of thing. There's one that is very famous and popular, is the one that the kid looks very fishy and the house is burning on the background. It tends to be one that a lot of people see it, but usually they derive from a photo that was shared online previously. So then she talks about not only just that, but also how can people steal the information from it, because everything you share online leaves a digital footprint, and everything about that, it's about data, and data is the most invaluable currency that we've got. And that data allows people to do whatever they want. So she can be used and accused of crimes that she didn't commit. It can affect her credit score, and they can use the values from it to play and create credit cards and use to do applications. So it is a very powerful video, and I think it helps to get an understanding of how much information you're sharing and what that can be used for. And the video particularly ends with a photo of Ella naked in a forum chat, which is something that we have seen at the start as a trend with the use of AI, that you can modify images of children and then put it into those contexts, not just children, of adults as well. Just before anyone thinks it's only for children, it doesn't. And that is the main goal of the video, and that children need special protection, but so do we. And online safety starts with everybody.
So just expanding on that, the new. Can you expand on the new online safety bill that's coming through, or that's just been released?
So we have a new online safety coming through, and where we will be. There's a lot of laws and changes with regards to it, where the social media platforms will have to take on more responsibility. Includes things like cyberbullying, trolling, and includes the report of images for example, where there's some of it that is already done by it, but the owners will now be bigger on those platforms, because it's very well and truly people reporting it, but the social media platform doesn't take it down, for example. It does have a huge focus on children, the online safety, but it does also cover in a lot of extent for adults, where it allows us to have more responsibility and more, I guess, power with the social media companies, rather than they're just like, oh well, it's not our problem, that someone watched the content that was, or that we didn't take down a live stream of someone trying to kill themselves and we just left it running, and we can't control what people see. And in reality, that's what they are trying to do, is to get the companies to be responsible and accountable for this, as well as we are, but also the owners to be on them in particular.
So Barry, just before we started the session, we spoke, and also yesterday when we met up face to face, we spoke a lot about safeguarding children online and implementing effective controls.
Yep.
Would you mind just expanding on that? I saw that Mac has just put a link on there, but
Yeah.
there's so much material out there that really that parents can use to improve the situation, and even share with people at the schools. Could you expand on that, please?
So we would advise, obviously, that if you have children, that you have conversations with your children about their use of internet, that you have a frank, open conversation. Some of the advice that I give to parents when I go and do talks about this is ensuring that they understand what those platforms are, to be familiar with it, because a lot of the times the children will bat you off because they're like, well, you don't know anything, I'm more techie than you are, which is, when I was looking at them and registering for the event, I saw loads of comments and loads of people saying, oh yeah, they're too techie, they're way more techie savvy than I am. And the reality, it is a bit that, but it's also, as a parent, I'm not a parent, but as an adult, we also have the duty and the responsibility to understand things. And it is important that you understand. And what we say is that download the games, download the platforms, download TikTok, download and see how it works, how the interaction is, how can people reach out to your children? Can you find your child online, and have that conversation? Because I think there is a lot of myth and expectations that we can do everything, and it's like we can protect them as much as we can, but mostly it's a lot about having frank conversations and being able to, if you need to go and check their devices, go and check. But if you have an open conversation, then there is less of issues to it. But there is also a website that we highly recommend for parents called Internet Matters, and if you are based in the UK, or not just in the UK, but particularly if you're based in the UK, there's a lot of guidance on how to set up parental control in a lot of social media platforms. So it's got things like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, you name it, anywhere that people have it. It's got parental controls and how to set it. It's got step-by-step guidance. If you are in the UK, it's got advice on how you can contact your internet provider, for example, and they can assist you to set up those parental controls and things in a manner that your child can't bypass it, which is also important. So, for example, the restrictions of websites, the content, the restrictions of word searches, for example, and those things are very important, so we can limit that curiosity, but also that, that never-ending content that they allow to see it and search, and obviously understand how algorithms work and how they suggest things for you based on your behaviors. So we highly recommend using the Internet Matters. Is definitely something that we talk about it, because as well and truly we go to schools and present and talk to schools about this, and the schools does all the work, but in reality, when I was growing up, when I got home was my safest place. Was now isn't quite the case. When you get your kids who are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, they get home, and whatever they post, they'll still be there, but they'll still be on their phones, and they'll still be up until 3 a.m. if you let them.
Yeah. Are you? I know you don't have children yet. Are you concerned about having children?
Yeah.
Knowing what you know.
Yeah.
And working
Definitely.
in the police.
Definitely. I want to put them in a cave and hide them until they're like 25.
Well, that's how I feel after yesterday. But also,
I don't really think I can trust anything.
No, and also, what age do you think when you start having children would you start educating them around the subject?
from as little as you can. The moment you give a device to a child, you have to have some of the responsibility on you. So let's say, you know, they're watching that YouTube game. So they're watching, I don't know, Bluey, that kind of thing when they're very, very little. And because you want some parenting time so you can do some stuff. We're not judging anyone using devices, God, by all means. But it's about ensuring that your settings on your YouTube and your parts of the internet then doesn't allow it to go further. And then it doesn't allow it to keep going and suggesting random things because you as a parent searched something entirely different and now it's bringing up to this child and this child doesn't understand it. We'll just press play because they don't know any better. And then as they get older, when they're about 6, 7, and they got a lot more understanding, and start talking about them and start saying to them, look, do you understand that you may be talking to someone that you may not know? You know, that someone might approach you. What would you do if that was the case? And raise that awareness from the very beginning. It's a lot harder to come to them when they are 15, 16. They're a lot harder to listen to us. But when they're younger, is probably the time. And the more you try to prohibit them from doing it, the more they want to do it. So it's not about prohibiting anyone. It's just about ensuring that if you're going to do it, at least do it safely. And as they get older, is what we say. You know, everything you post online stays online, and it stays online forever. And, you know, as they turn teenagers and they start to get into ages of high schools, colleges, that they understand that all the stuff that they will post will be searchable, that when they go and get jobs, people will be able to see it. And it is about ensuring that they have that awareness of the digital footprint, as we call it, and that will just always be there. And mostly how criminals can use it. You know, we don't necessarily use it, but a lot of criminals do use it to their advantage.
I want to come back to on that point later, Barry. But I know, thank you for that massive contribution. I know Louise itching to add to what you just said. But Louise, I specifically, I mean, I know you know a lot about this, and I applaud you the work you do around children and safety, and especially around the country. I'm very thankful. I wish there were another million people like you. But I'd like you to talk a little bit more specific today, if you can, around sharing personal content and understanding the dangers, because you and I have spoken about this since the days of COVID, about what kids post. And let me stop there.
Yeah, I think it's really working on Barry's point, is the fact that they're never too young, but you know, parents do have responsibility 100%, but also kids don't listen to parents, right? So it is about, so we have we've set up we've got a mascot. It's a dinosaur. Bear with me. It's called Dax, and we've set up a Facebook account and Instagram account. So one of the rooms that we have is we get the kids to crack the passcode by finding information. It's really simple information like birthday, school, favorite dog, what the dog's name is, and they can actually come up with a password. We give them a couple of hints, because what we're trying to do is demonstrate in real terms how people can gather information. That's my first point, is they don't understand that Auntie Margaret, who publishes a photograph on Facebook and says happy birthday to my favorite nephew, you know, this is information. So even the information that they're posting actually is contributing to the information that other family members are posting. So AbSafe do two things. We work primarily with 9 to 12-year-olds, and we talk about digital footprints, because a lot of young people we speak to just don't really understand that YouTube is an application. So we'll say who is online, who is on, you know, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and they'll put their hands up, and who's on YouTube, and they'll put their hands up. I say, well, you do know that's connected to the internet. So even taking a step back, we still have to reinforce that anything online is Internet of Things. Because if they're not on Insta but on YouTube playing a game, they don't realize that is somewhere that information is shared, and they're friending people, and they're playing these really innocent games, and then things are flashing up because, like you say, the algorithm, particularly on TikTok, can take you down some dark paths. And we also talk about coercion. And what we say to the young people that come here is that we say, you know, that You know, what you're going to do, you take a picture of me doing skateboarding anyway. And you know, I'm going to show another video if you don't go and steal that bottle of lemonade. So what we try and introduce is the idea of coercion, is that someone's saying to you, if you don't do that, then this will happen. Or if you do that, something nice will happen. That's coercion. It's illegal. You need to contact a trusted adult. And the other thing we do is we've actually got a little bit of funding to deliver cyber awareness to older people. So we had grannies and granddads, and they were so grateful that we were saying, look, you can do this. Because people go, no, it's internet. I don't know what it is. I'm pressing all these buttons. So, and you go, well, actually, that's not an excuse anymore, right? Because you do internet banking, you know, you pay by your card, you do contactless. So it's given the whole community information so they're able to support young people to be safe. So, you know, the grannies will go, right, okay, so go home and talk to your grandkids about it. Because if you're looking after them after school, you need to know where they may be. You need to know what's happening online. So there isn't, I think we need to get away from this, oh, it's the internet, I don't know what that is. Well, you do know what it is, because we watched BBC iPlayer. So I think when we break it down to simple, like relatable items for people of all ages, then they get it. If you say we're going to go on the internet, go on TikTok, I'm not on TikTok. And like you say, Ray, get on TikTok, understand TikTok, because that's where the 8, 9, 10-year-olds are sitting. They're on TikTok. And I'll give you a little very quick example. So we have a radio show. It's not great, but you can listen to it. It's on Shmoo Radio. It's all right. We just chat, you know. I mean, I'm hilarious. I mean, just say that. But we had a girl that, we probably have 3 listeners. And that one of those is my husband, and the other one is Ken's partner. So yeah,
we need the link, Louise.
Yeah, of listenership. But you know, we had somebody that followed us, and then she sent us a message via Instagram. We don't follow kids on our social medias; they follow us, right? And she made a comment, and we were really uncomfortable with the comments. We rang the school and said, "Look, we don't know what this is about, but please go and find this girl, blah, blah." So they took on that, and they went and found her. Whatever happened, happened. So it's all about being responsible. So if you are running a business or a charity, you need to be responsible with the messages that are coming into your inbox. So what we did was share that concern appropriately by saying, look, this may be nothing, but actually it's the phrasing of it. And I don't understand why she's got a new Instagram account. So it's like you say, Ray, it's everybody's responsibility. But we can't rely on statutory agencies, because just because you're a police officer doesn't make you great with kids, because that's kind of not what we pay you to do. You know, we pay nurseries to be good with kids, but we pay police officers to go and, you know, do crime. That's kind of what they do. So I think we need to be very careful about who we are assigning to do and go and deliver this education, because it has to be someone that can do it in a way that's relatable to the kids, and also they understand a feeling around it and a behavior, because when we do that, it'll sink in, and it's a new way of learning. So that's I've got backing Barry all the way, actually, and your kids are going to be okay, because you're already concerned about it, Barry. You'll be ace. You'll be all right.
I don't have to hide them in a cave, yeah?
You're like a top mother. I want to ask you another question then, Louise, based on what you've just told me there. And that's about, remember that study that you did about sending pictures recently, or was it a couple of years ago, about the age, what kind of pictures people send? And I think parents don't know this, because since then I've told maybe 100 or 200 parents, and they were all shocked when I told them the statistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the police officers know this, is that, I mean, it's something like, I don't know, between 60 and 80% of young people will share intimate images of themselves to get a date or hook up or be liked or whatever the young people are calling it these days. It would be courted in your day, Francis. So
yes.
So that's what we're talking about. And that's because it's become a normal. And what we need to do is I don't know if the word is denormalize it. We need to say that's not a great way of connecting, because it's not abstract. And like you say, Barry, we talk to the young people that come here about digital footprints, because they say we can delete it. No, you can't. Yep. No, you can't. And so we still have those conversations because they've heard it on TikTok or Instagram that they can delete it or hide it. And I think what's worrying about that is the lack of protection. So we need to empower young people to go, actually, I'm not going to do that, because you need to like me for me, not because of I've sent you a pic of an intimate part of myself. And that's become quite a normal behavior. because they've normalized it. And we need to say, look, it's not normal because these are better ways because like, Very, if you say, or Sam, if you say to kids, don't, they'll do it. So it's about saying, look, you could do that, but actually what will happen in 5 years' time when you go for a job, they'll look you up and they'll find an image of your whatever part you've posted. And then they're going to be like, well, what kind of person is that? Because we are in a cancel culture at the moment. So even if you make a little mistake, that's going to come back and bite you. So we need to be telling young people, and you asked a really good question, what age? As soon as that kid picks up the phone, that's when you start talking to them about it. Kids listen from when they're born. So if that young person, that child can pick up a phone, that's when it starts. And if you don't know, there are people like Francis, there's links we put in this chat. Get on them, get wise, get better at your knowing around Internet things.
Yeah, and I think with what you mentioned, actually, Louise. Oh, sorry, Ben.
I was just going to pick up on something just previously about the whole digital footprint and the sharing of information and wanting people to like you more because you are sharing information. It's not just whether it's pictures and particularly intimate pictures. The latest thing at the moment, the latest Instagram trend is to be sharing this list of all your favorite stuff, this get to know me. And it's also suggesting that you should give them your favorite color, your pet's name, your age, God knows what other information. And of course, this is just a hacker's paradise, because it's all the kind of information that's going to be used as your security question or actually involved in your passwords. So all they have to do is put that together with a bit of extra information that they dig out from the Facebook page, possibly from your family's Facebook page, because they're posting stuff about you on it as well when you're all friends. So if you haven't got your privacy settings properly turned on, they can browse all your friends and your family contact. And suddenly they've built up this whole picture of you of this and this identity that they can then abuse. And people are actually willingly, not just willingly, think it's a good idea, think it's a good thing to do, because it makes them more appealing or more likable or more approachable by other people who have similar interests, a similar favorite movie, a similar favorite song. And actually it's just a hacker's dream. So I actually picked up on this on Monday, and I think it was from one of the news articles, and it's actually one of the Instagram influencers saying, please don't do this and please delete any posts that you've already put out there. So it's good there is some awareness already going on about it. But it's just unbelievable that of that mindset, and that's what I want to pick up with what you were saying, Louise, is actually getting them to change that mindset where you could do this, but you really need to know what the repercussions could be, and it's not just now; it's later down the line. I couldn't believe it. So I think, Francis, if you haven't already, you're going to do a post on that, aren't you? For so that all the
absolutely,
and parents on LinkedIn can make sure that their children remove any information like that. I mean, God forbid. I bet it's not just the children either. It's going to be adults as well that are wanting to get out there and meet more people and build up those those interactions. So sorry to interrupt you there, Barry. It was just as the man at the forefront of trying to keep people safe for Francis, I really wanted to make sure that got a mention today, because it's really, really damaging, but so innocent at the same, seemingly innocent at the same time.
So Barry, what are we going to say there?
No, so actually, I was going to say, actually, on the top of what you said, I'd actually seen a lot of that on Instagram, because I am on Instagram, and I have seen like loads of people sharing it, and I was like, oh my god, I remember seeing this trend on Facebook like a couple of years back, and it was the exact same thing, and it was like, tell us like this random post, like your favorite pet, or where did you go to school, like share your memory, and then off it goes, like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, like millions of people responding, and you're just like, oh my god. And then now, like, but if I was say, like, if I might have even done that when I was before, because I haven't have had any idea that that's kind of the way that social engineering works, and then that's the way that it picks up on things. And it is funny, because like when we go and talk to school, and when I go and do talk to kids, I always say to them, and I was like, right, well, I bet your password is probably something very memorable to you. So let's say you went to watch I don't know, you support Liverpool. Sorry, don't kill me if you don't. I'm just picking a random team. So let's say you support Liverpool, and then you put a picture that you've gone to Liverpool and to watch the game at the stadium, and you're all very happy, and it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're 5, whether you're 20 or you're 55, it's all the same. And it says, and then your numbers followed by it is probably your birthday, of which you posted my birthday treat, go to Liverpool Stadium to watch the match, and then off it goes, and off you gave half of the information away. And I think it's just that understanding of it. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I never done that. I probably did, because there's no point being a hypocrite. Before I joined this job, I definitely done a lot of these things, and I'm like, oh dear, and I was like, wow, join the job, change all the settings of everything, and concerns about everything. But it is very much about that awareness, but also on the topic that Louise mentioned with normalizing things and denormalizing it, as you would call it. It is true. And I think obviously not only for kids, the sharing in pictures is very seen as a normal thing, but it's also seen as a normal thing in the adult world. And it is where it is also probably both sides quite problematic, because I bet there is loads of people who are more public influencers, more normal, like higher profiles and stuff, that have got unsolicited pictures and that have sent stuff. And then this is kind of how this is all now becoming all this like normal thing. And then it's just, and then if someone then approaches a child, it's kind of like, well, why is it different to me than it was to my parents? Like, oh, I opened my mum's Instagram account by accident because it was on the iPad, and there was a picture of a body part, and you're just like, great, brilliant, well, it means it's all right then, doesn't it? And I think that's where it's all gone a bit, I don't know, I find it's gone a bit blurred.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. Blurred. Very. Let me pass over to Simon. Simon, we spoke earlier before we started today about chat rooms, identifying and also how to potentially mitigate the risk. And thanks to the links that you've already shared, I saw one you did just now, reportharmfulcontent.com/report/. I think that's a brilliant site. I've never seen that one before. But, you work a lot with businesses, but how do you involve business owners to think about their kids, especially around chat rooms?
Yeah, thanks, Francis, and Happy New Year to everyone. I guess I'm wearing a slightly different hat today because, as well as being the CEO of the Cyber Resilience Centre for London, I'm also chair of governors for 2 schools in Cambridgeshire where I live, one a secondary school and one a primary school. And within that, also the governor with what we call link responsibility for online safety. So it's something that's very personal to me. And I'm also a dad of 2 girls, one who's a teenager, one who's not far off being a teenager. So like Francis, very nervous about some of the risks that our children are exposed to online. You mentioned there about chat rooms, and this is a really, really big minefield. We see chat rooms being used by lots of the social media sites, particularly gaming sites as well now, where people who play these games are able to share codes, tips, hints, etc. But of course, that means they're also open to people to abuse what those sites were set up for. And obviously we've seen a large number of sexual predators use these types of chat room facilities to groom children or to get them to share inappropriate images online and elsewhere. So they are a particular worrying thing. You mentioned the point about sort of how do we educate people, and I think there's a fine line here. On the one hand, you want to make people aware of what the risks are and the dangers that are online, and there are some really horrendous stories that I think we've already sort of mentioned already to some extent that are happening online. But it's about education and awareness, and it's about making people realize that there are some really great resources available, which we've shared already. Internet Matters, I think, as mentioned, which is a brilliant website. And there's all those tools that are there to help educate not just children, but also families. And that's really important. One of the things I just wanted to talk about, and again, I'm making this quite sort of UK specific, so apologies if you're outside of the UK. There's 2 regulators in the UK which play a very important role. The first one is Ofcom, which is the Office of Communications. They produce an annual report every year around online safety and use of the internet by children in particular. There's some really interesting statistics that are in that. One of which is that I think about 84% of children are bullied online, which compares to about 55-60% for face-to-face bullying. So it's a growing problem, and you're more likely these days to be bullied online than you are face to face. So there's some really interesting statistics in there. There's also something that's produced by Middlesex University, and again, I'm happy to share these links after I've spoken, which talks about the levels of harmful content. So harmful content now being seen online is about 56% of children aged between 11 and 16 will have seen harmful content. And this has a significant impact on psychology and people's well-being and mental health. The other regulator I wanted to talk about was Ofsted. So Ofsted is the Office of Standards and Education. Now, online safety is a key part of Ofsted inspections. So every school in the UK is inspected on a regular basis by Ofsted. They come in. I've had 2 in the last 2 years, so I've been through the process twice. And they will ask governors, they will ask teachers, they will ask families and students about what training and education and awareness they get around online safety. So the good news is it's already part of the Ofsted framework that's out there. We are asked as governors, what training do we receive? So as a governor, I go through annual refresher training on online safety to make sure that I'm aware of understanding the risks. The teachers and other school staff go through that as well. And it's now part of the curriculum. Now, it varies again, depending on the capability of each school, on what they can provide, depending on skill sets and knowledge. But it's just a reassuring message to say that there is a significant amount of resource and effort driven by government in the UK to ensure that it is part of the curriculum and that there are extra efforts going on board. And I guess I just wanted a couple of things I wanted to add in as well. And I was sort of making some notes as we were going through this. We talked about cyberbullying. One of the other things that's a really big issue, we talked about things like sharing those images. Just a reminder that it is a criminal offence for under 18s to share sexual images with other under 18s. So what might seem like a bit of harmless fun is actually a quite a serious criminal offence. Of course, it's even more serious if it's an under 18 sharing an image with someone who is over 18, and that may well be done through a chat room facility or through a mobile phone. So, the law is there, it's there to protect it. The Online Safety Act will reinforce some of that, those powers and place a greater emphasis on tech companies to take more of a stance on rooting out some of these inappropriate things as well. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is something we've had to contend with in the schools where I'm involved in, and this is a really interesting one, is influencers and individuals who display inappropriate behaviour. Now, I'm going to refer to an individual who's quite well known in the news, and I hope this isn't sort of too controversial, but someone like an Andrew Tate character who has views that are quite extreme in many ways. And we see students in particular follow and display some of those behaviours. So, for me, this is about informing, keeping an eye on some of the trends that are happening, working with local policing, charities and other organisations that are there to help. It's about making sure that parents and families are informed of what those risks are, running sessions for those families potentially, bearing in mind, again, the areas where the 2 schools I support here are in reasonably poor areas. So internet uptake or awareness or cyber skills by those families is very, very low. So it's trying to educate those people on some of those risks, but also just creating that environment. And I think Very talked about some of the questions and how you phrase those things with children. Open questions, getting to understand a bit more about, not sort of saying, what are you doing on the internet, but what sort of apps do you and your friends use? What sort of things do you watch when you're online? That open conversation and just getting to know the profile that your children are using. And I think someone's already mentioned it. One of the other things we suggest is actually go online and create a profile yourself. Get to know how the site works. Get to know the features. Understand what the controls are. And the more confident you are around that, the more confident you can be in your children as well. But it's a minefield out there. But I think we have to recognise that we can't escape technology. We use it every day. Schools are using it increasingly, particularly since COVID, and it's right that we have access to it. But we should encourage people to use technology, but to be understanding of where those risks are and hopefully to use it in the right way.
There's so much information to take in there. But thank you for sharing it. I bet you could have continued. As a governor of 2 schools, what kind of complaints are you dealing with from a parent, a child, and a teacher's perspective regarding this topic?
So we log, as is by law, every complaint that comes in from a child or a parent. From children, it will be things like online bullying, which is fairly commonplace, and it may be where people are being abused or mocked online. That's quite a common one. We are seeing, obviously,
Sorry, how do you deal with that? Because it's a big issue in schools now. I mean, my son went through the same thing, and we went to school. They kind of dealt with it. But how do your two schools deal with that?
Well, the good news is every school will have a safeguarding team. These are highly trained individuals. They are specialists in knowing how to deal with this type of incident. And in fact, both schools are now increasing their safeguarding teams and responsibilities to deal with the growing threats that are out there, and do a fantastic job. In fact, Ofsted were really impressed with the quality of the safeguarding that was in place in both schools. But this is about sitting down with those students and helping them understand about the behavior online and what's inappropriate, and recognizing that it isn't the right way forward. But if you are concerned as a parent or a family member, pick up the phone to your local safeguarding lead in the school. Have a conversation with them about, share with them your concerns and your thoughts. They are there to help. They are highly trained individuals, and they will support you as the best they can through it. So cyberbullying, that's the kind of thing that we're seeing quite frequently. But it is just to reassure everyone that schools are there to help. That is the first point of contact that I would go to.
Wow.
But just to add to that point, sorry, Francis, is we need to teach kids to be kind. Right, so the internet is a byproduct for all intents and purposes. It's a byproduct. It's a place where people are expressing themselves increasingly because they don't think there's any consequence to that behavior. And I think as a nation, as I don't want to get all kind of over ethereal about it, but we need to work with kindness. So if we could teach, like we did this project, it was ages ago, and we had a mindfulness school, and all the kids learned about kindness, and they had to practice it, because it's like anything we learn. If you don't practice it, then you're not any good at it. And I think if we took a step back, Simon, and looked at what we're teaching kids about kindness and respect to themselves and respect to the others, because then we can work on the other things that come up, because this is a level now it'll get more complex, right? Because that's the internet of things. Look how far we've come in the last, I'm not showing my age, but, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have the internet when I was a kid, but we didn't. So look how far it's come. And I think we have to embed this in kindness. And if we can teach kids coming into this, I suppose, era of the internet of things about kindness and about respect, then it kind of negates, we'll call him Andrew Tate. I don't like mentioning his name, I don't like giving him airtime, but we can negate that because people say, actually, that's not kind. And I think it has to work. We can't look at the internet as a separate entity. It's a behavior. Yeah. So what is driving that behavior forward is the internet is the outcome of that behavior. That isn't the driver. So what drives the kids to put those things online? What drives the kids to follow influencers that aren't kind? Mm-hmm. What drives that? And once we start really impacting that and almost financing that to a point that we can say, let's look at kindness as a superpower. It's cool to be kind. And I don't want to say cool because that's not cool, right? But I think we need to look at it in both ways. Is the internet is a byproduct, is a behavior, but what drives that behavior, I think, is much more intricate, it's much more complex, and it's much more where we need to invest, kind of much more time and money, really. Yeah,
and just very finally, Francis, I agree entirely with Louise. In fact, one of the things I would love to see is particularly with Ofsted, we've got a new chief executive, is actually to move away from performance metrics and to be more about, kindness should be a measurement. It's those things that I think are a much better way of doing it. So I totally agree with what Louise is saying, but we've got a long way to go.
Wow, I think we needed a 2-hour session for today. But Martin, are you ready? We've been waiting. Normally he comes on halfway through the session, but the topic has just been going so well at the moment. I just don't want to stop people from talking. But before you start, Martin, I want everybody to follow Martin on LinkedIn, because I think this man, he goes all over the world and presents, and he's given up his time to come and share some of his amazing magic. Because what we talk about, especially on the cybersecurity side, it's all about hoodwinking people in many different ways, and you're very good at that.
Thank you, Francis, and happy New Year, one and all. And yes, indeed. In fairness, actually, today is actually something that's a bit more close to home for me, and I'm going to do a quick trick in a bit, just to bring up the kind of the energy levels a bit. But at the same time, this is something that's very, very kind of close to my heart, because I am a millennial. I was born in '88, and I very much was at the birth of internet, and part of the first wave of kind of online chat rooms, really, MSN Messenger, and back in the days of early chat rooms. And I was actually a victim myself. My teacher at school, my music teacher, pretended to be a girl online and groomed me for a couple of years while I was at school, and it got to the stage where he ended up being arrested, and I actually had to go to court against him, and it was actually due to my evidence and another kid's evidence that he actually went to jail. So I've been on the receiving end firsthand of this, and it's really impacted kind of my whole life, really, because from my perspective, I even now don't trust the internet. I don't trust social media. I use it because I have to as part of my job. But growing up, all I wanted to be was famous. But now I couldn't think of anything worse, really, because as much as obviously kids, it's all about protecting kids. Adults and anyone who's in the spotlight or anyone who's famous these days, everyone is just throwing constant vitriol at them. And as you said, Louise, as well, the biggest thing above everything else is just teaching kindness, really, because the problem is when you're online, you could be anyone. You can set up an account in any name. You're faceless. And so, and unfortunately, even in the adult world, let alone in the kid world, at schools and with, bullying between kind of peers and stuff, in the magic community more than anything. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a magician myself, but most magicians are horrendous in the way that they treat each other and speak to each other on the Facebook forums. And even now, like it's a major issue in the community. And it just comes down to people feeling like, because it's online, and sadly in a lot of cases people don't actually do it with any malicious intent. They're just doing it as a bit of a laugh for themselves, as a bit of a joke, and they don't realize the impact that their words have on that person. Even though they class it as banter and they're just bantering, they don't realize the impact that it actually has on a psychological level. And very much like with what I do as well, it's all about social engineering, and it's all about putting you and manipulating you into a way that it creates this moment of awe and wonder in my case, because I've dedicated my life to bringing happiness and joy into people's lives. But at the same time, so many people use the skills and techniques that I do on a daily basis to abuse online and to take advantage of people. And so it is something that I've always been very, very much an advocate for. And Louise, I've got so much love for you both for just what you're doing to spread the word and just protect. And Simon as well, with what you were saying as well, it's very, very valid. Like, everybody's points are valid, and it's a shame this session today isn't 2 hours, because there's so much that all of us can do. As it is, after the trial that I went through, at the time I was 17, just turning 18 at the point of the court date. And I didn't. My parents didn't know anything about it. They didn't know anything that I'd been through. I'd kept it hidden from them, and they were completely naive. The first that they actually heard of any of my involvement with it was because when it came to the court date, I just turned 18, and the newspaper put my name in print as being there, even though I'd requested them not to. And as you were saying, that's it now. That has always been in the public domain, and is something that can come up online. I mean, thankfully, I've now buried it in amongst all the things I've done since with the record. But even so, anyone who wants to look for it could find it, and it's always going to be there. And that was with me not wanting to, and that's how my parents found out that I'd been involved in this whole thing. Which, as much as on me at that age of thinking that I was, mature enough as a 14, 15, 16-year-old to handle it. But at the same time, it's difficult because, it can't, like, the whole thing with this and the whole thing with these people who take advantage of, especially young people online, it's very easy to just use little things and say little things to manipulate them into keeping quiet and not saying anything, which is why when the whole Time's Up and Me Too movements came into force, and especially now with in general, just the general approach now to actually looking at, now the internet's a good, couple of decades old, and we have a lot more experience now with, the long-term ramifications of it. Thankfully these conversations are exactly what we need. So so I just wanted to kind of share that from my side, and just from a personal perspective. just how much, it's still, even now, it still impacts me. It still impacts my approach to what I do and how I operate online, and what I share online as well.
Sorry, can I ask a personal question, Martin?
Yeah,
because I think this is so pertinent as to, parents with children. Why didn't you tell your parents about it?
That's a good question, actually. I think more so embarrassment more than anything at the time. It's just I didn't want to be that person who was caught up in this whole case, and I didn't want everyone knowing what was going on. And so I just thought, keeping it to myself meant that, the less people that knew about it, really, the better. But at the same time, I think afterwards it took a lot of therapy for me to really truly, like in therapy in my adult life, to truly just understand what was happening at the time. So it's it's difficult because as parents, like, you can only do so much, but at the same time you have to, like, as Very was saying, and as Simon and Louise were saying, create that open space where you don't feel like you're questioning the kid. You're giving them an open and free opportunity to speak in a safe space, and that's the biggest thing of everything. Is just I'm the safe space.
Thank you.
Sorry, did you want to do a really quick trick before?
Yes, of course.
Because finish on a slightly lighter note, and this is going to actually involve Instagram as well. So I tell you what, Louise and Very, would you mind just unmuting yourselves for me, please? I'm going to utilize both of you for this one.
Oh no!
Also, if you all have your phones with you right now, grab your phones and go onto Instagram and just get Instagram prepped if you have it. If not, don't worry, because it will show you from my side anyway. But we're going to do two things. Firstly, Very, we're going to pick a playing card. So as you can see, all the cards are all different all the way through. Very, just say stop anytime you like for me.
Stop.
Okay, great, perfect. We'll have a look at the card you've stopped at, which in this case today is the Ace of Diamonds. Could have been any of these you stopped on, or any of these, but Ace of Diamonds is your card today. And Louise, I would like you, please, to give us any number between 1 and 100.
44.
44. Now, on my phone, I've got a list of over 100 landmarks from around the world. If I open up my landmarks list, which is just there we go. As you can see, we've got all different places from around the world, like Taj Mahal, Stonehenge, Great Wall of China, Statue of Liberty. What was the number, Louise? Sorry?
44.
44. So if you scroll down to 44, 44 today is, there we go, the Leaning
Tower.
Pisa. So had you gone 45, it would have been Windsor Castle. Had you gone 43, it would have been San Michel. But 44, Leaning Tower of Pisa, is what you picked today. And Very, you went for the Ace of Diamonds. Now, as it is, I actually made a prediction before we started this session. And if you're on Instagram, if you go to Magic Man Martin, which is my page, all one word, Magic Man Martin, and then look at my latest post on Instagram. For those who don't have Instagram right now, I will show you myself. But I did actually make a prediction of the card, the Ace of Diamonds, in front of the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Yay!
Very good.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you for let me join. Like I said, I was kind of quite looking forward to this session, just because of the personal respect and because I don't talk about it enough from my side. As it is, Dorset Police actually did a video study of my case after the trial finished, and they actually used it for a good number of years in schools. And I've been desperately trying to find the DVD that it was burned onto, which is buried in amongst all my stuff. I've actually literally just found it on top of my cupboard in my studio, so I have now got it. I can share the link with you. But
we'd love to share that, especially as one of the comments in the session today, if you don't mind, Martin.
Yeah, of course.
But thank you for sharing your story. It takes a lot to talk in a public environment about this, and I don't want to bring the mood down. However, poor Theo has been sitting there so patiently all this time, and of course the time has just run away as usual. We've got 6 minutes left, and I wanted Theo to talk about a recent case study about when he went to one of our new clients to do a cybersecurity audit, and of course what he found from a kid's perspective, and talking more about their behaviors and how that impacts the parents from a security perspective. Does that make sense, Theo?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Hopefully it will make sense to everyone else. Thanks, Francis. Happy New Year to everyone. It's good to be on the call. While we don't really know what our kids are exposed to if we don't take the time to understand what they're doing. Okay, so we're talking about this today. I've been struggling with it since the early 2000s. So I've got two daughters, aged 24 and 26, and the stuff that we're talking about today isn't new. And the stuff that I still find, which is what I found 10, 15 years ago, is that parents allow their kids a whole lot of freedom. And that freedom includes whatever they want to do online. So if it's online gaming, they would use platforms like Discord or something similar to engage with friends or other people in their communities. And in this recent case where I went and attended a site visit for a client to perform a cyber assessment, I found that the young son was an avid gamer, 13 years old. He'd actually allowed someone who was impersonating a technical resource from Discord to have access to his machine, and they got access to that network, that home network. Again, the home network wasn't separated. They had what I mean by that is they had no separation between what the kids' computers or PlayStations were connected to, separated from what the home office network was being separated from. So everything is shared. CCTV cameras are shared, access to the audio visual system is shared. And when I confronted, or when I raised this with the child, who had a guardian with them in the room, said, "Do you know that this is something that you've now exposed the family to?" And he's like, "No, but it isn't really, because the person said that they are from Discord." And I said, "Well, let's go and have a look quickly. Let's go and find that person's account." We went and found it, and the account had been closed shortly after it had been created, and this person had used to hack into that machine. The kid turns around and says, "Oh, but my sister's machine was also hacked, so it's all good. There's no real risk." So we need to understand what the kids are being exposed to. We need to understand what the kids are using and they're exposing us to when they are using those platforms. It's not just about their online safety. It's about our online safety as well and how we can be exposed. Now, I know we've got very little time. But Simon, one last question that I have from you, or for you, is sitting on the board as a governor, what technology is schools putting in place to protect kids and teachers from online threats, if there is anything? Because I'm not seeing it at home. I'd like to see what's happening at school.
Yeah, thanks, Theo. I mean, just a quick one on that. There are technologies available, but again, it will depend, I think, on each individual school and the ability they've got to implement that technology and monitor it. Certainly, the most schools I work, they have got some technology in place. Whether it's effective or not, I would probably say it doesn't make a huge difference. I think it's the education piece is probably far more impactful than anything else. I mean, obviously, there are also technologies that you can use at home. So when my eldest daughter first got a mobile phone, it'd be an interesting question, actually. What age do you think is appropriate for a child to have a phone? My youngest one, who's 11, has not got one yet. But it's there are certain things you can do, like Google Play or Google have a facility, Microsoft have a facility where you can do certain monitoring or control access or limit access to certain sites, which are free of charge. And they're certainly worth having a look at as well. And I'm sure we can probably put the links on the webinar as well. But technology is a solution, but I don't think you should rely on technology. I think it's more about education awareness. That's by far the most powerful thing you can do.
100%. The age for a kid to have a phone, is about 26.
So I just want to add to that. If they're not using their phones, they've got access to their friends' phones, right?
Exactly.
So that's why education is the key. So you might limit your daughter's phone use or not give her a phone, but as eggs is eggs, 85% of their class have got phones that are connected to the internet. Yeah. So that's why education is so important, and it's a good point that you've raised, Theo. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, Louise, I don't know if everyone heard. So 26 is the age that kids can have their phones. Okay, that's just from personal experience. we
Yeah.
really battled with this for 10 years, and the biggest issue was the peer pressure.
Yeah.
And it was is that inclusiveness, and even though our kids had a safe space to talk to us, there were still certain things, Martin can attest to it, there were still certain things that they were too ashamed of to be able to share with their parents. And the kids should never feel that way.
And teenagers don't share stuff with their parents, and actually you shouldn't, some of it, because it's a teenage thing. So there's a normal age and stage. Anyway.
Mac, I want to leave you with the final word. This is something that you don't know I'm going to ask you. And here's the question, right? Imagine you are 10 right now. You're living in today's society, and we fast forward 30 years, and you're now 40 and you're a dad. What would you tell yourself 30 years from now as far as being safe online?
Well, I think listening to today's conversation and, some of the things that was mentioned by Very and Louise and Simon and Theo about, these online, learn about me kind of quizzes and all those kind of things. Back in the day, we'd fill these things out in a magazine with pen and paper, and that's where it was safe. Now today, it's a data collection minefield. And I'm just thinking of how many times my kids have sat there on their phone with me asking questions about, what's your favorite color? Where were you born? All these kind of things. And you're sitting there thinking, oh, this is cute, having this interesting conversation. And it's just bizarre how you're actually giving all this information away, and you don't realize your children could be sitting there mining information and risking your own safety as well as theirs. So for me is education. Don't just fill things in willy-nilly thinking that, I'm going to learn my new animal name, or I'm going to learn my new alien name by answering these questions. Just absolutely frightening what we put ourselves at risk to. So I think those are my thoughts there, Francis.
Okay, well, I think those are good thoughts, Mac. I think it's down to education. And just to wrap up, I've made a lot of notes here, but the top ones that jumped out to me is teach our kids to be kind, create your own profile, and speak to the local safeguarding teams at the schools. I didn't know this existed. I'd like to say a massive thank you to everybody here today for number one, giving your time, for two, for sharing your knowledge, and three, for caring. I wish you all a lovely day, and I look forward to seeing you next month, same time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.